Hello friends, back again. Thank you for tuning in. Let's talk about the history of Monster Hunter World and the start of Generation 5. Monster Hunter World is the GOAT of the series. We got so many new features, a 16-player hub, massive raids, new attacks for every single weapon. We got new environments, no loading zones, sliding moves, new monsters, a better palico, better food skills, massive quality of life changes, and the best story Monster Hunter series has ever seen. Generation 5 is the generation of accessibility. They made this game so much more accessible and therefore more enjoyable for more people. The whole idea of the game was to do away with the number, in other words, Monster Hunter 5, and focus on more of a concept rather than the 5th generation in itself. The idea was that Monster Hunter should come out simultaneously in Japan and the rest of the world, therefore making it much more of a MMO style game or a games as a service style game as opposed to the old school mechanics of Monster Hunter. This game was really redesigned and reimagined from the ground up. Think about what they did with Monster Hunter Tri, but then take that to the nth degree. So essentially they wanted to make a AAA Monster Hunter game. This was quite the undertaking, but with the number of copies that this game sold, no one can say that they didn't do it. The game ended up getting easier overall, but with the quality of life and combat changes, it felt much more fluid, but yet still held up the integrity of the series, while still taking out a lot of the busy work that took away from the combat. Now it's easier to jump in and enjoy the combat that this game has to offer. Capcom wanted to make a much more cinematic game with a cohesive story, so this game had a ton of cutscenes. But the only problem with that is when you are trying to hunt in multiplayer. If you're trying to hunt with a friend and do the story together, then the only way you can hunt together is after you have seen those cutscenes, and no cutscenes are skippable. So basically you have to get to the point in the mission where you watch the cutscene, exit the quest, wait for him to watch the cutscenes, then relaunch into your friend's quest, and then you can finish the quest together. It adds a whole level of complexity that didn't really need to be there. A small fix of just being able to let people watch cutscenes together would have solved this problem. Let's talk about the things that they took out of Monster Hunter World. Things that didn't really need to be there and offered more of a quality of life experience. They took out things like monster info books, which were replaced, and we will get to what they added in. They took out also Book of Combos, which were an item that helped you increase the odds of success for combining items. That sounds crazy, but essentially all they did was make it so anytime you combine an item, it is 100% guaranteed to work, so no more garbage. Not only did they take out the Book of Combos, but now all combos are much simpler, and there is even auto-crafting and crafting that is accessible via the radial menu. They also took out the loading between areas. When you load into a map, you now have access to the entire map. It is all seamless transitions between zones and areas. On some maps, this can be a little confusing, like Ancient Forest, because the simplicity of the old maps is gone, but the immersion it offers is unparalleled. This really has pros and cons. You aren't able to leave the area and heal or sharpen your weapon, but you won't experience this shit either. They took out paintballs, which honestly, thank fucking God. Paintballs were already getting so old for so many people. Instead, you look at tracks of the monster, sniff them, and then once you get enough tracks, you can find that monster's location. In the traditional system, you had to paint a monster and track it, and that paint could wear off mid-hunt, leading you to lose the monster and you pulling your hair out. Another great quality of life feature is they took out items like whetstones, pickaxes, and bug nets. Your hunter just carries them at all times, so they don't take up inventory space, and they are not something that you have to replenish, eliminating the amount of busy work. Your sharpness also shows how many hits you have left, which is a nice UI update. Let's talk about things they added in the game. You can now eat at your camp, and you can go inside your tent and restock items and change your weapon and even equipment sets. Because the areas are much bigger and more expansive, they gave us the ability to fast travel, so you can actually now fast travel in between camps, which is a great feature. They also added in damage numbers, which was very controversial, but now you actually know how much damage you're doing. I think this is really useful for players because now you know if you're hitting a weak spot on the monster or not, and the amount of damage really depends on where you're hitting the monster. Because the game was so story-focused, they decided to voice over the entire game.
What are you doing? Go!
So now there are language options. You can choose between the original Japanese language, the English voiceover, or even Monster Hunter language, which has always been very prevalent throughout the series. They also added in a, let's call it a highlight screen for after multiplayer quests. You can see which hunter did what the best. For instance, it'll show you if someone applied the most buffs or was like a healer, or on the rare occasion, you'll actually see this person did X amount of damage. Though you probably have never seen it because that person has to do like 90% of the damage. They also added in additional features for the mini-map. It's always been there, however, now they updated it so it tells you when a monster is ready to capture, or if the monster is exhausted, or even if the monster is enraged. They also added in the ability to take items while moving, and you can also gather items while moving. On top of that, you can also cancel out of many animations like sharpening or healing. There's also a radial item wheel which allows new ways of making and taking items. And you can even roll while carrying things like eggs. Hallelujah! Because they took out the monster info books, they gave us a whole section in the menu, the start menu, called the Hunter's Notes, which basically is all the info that you'd have to look up online to play the game. You can now finally see what parts you get when you carve or capture, or what parts are weak to which weapons, or what element the monster is weak to. It has a lot of info here, on top of the fact that it has a lot of weapon combos and all of the previous tutorials that you haven't bothered to read ever. Welcome, friends, to Astera, the new base of operations in Monster Hunter World. While the only downside is really that it is a little spread out, the immersion, again, that it offers is unparalleled. In Astera, you have access to things like the Argosy, bounties, your farm, the new Elder Melder, your house, and the smithy. The bounty system in this game was unlike anything else in previous games. You had registered bounties, which you could pick from an assortment of bounties once you returned from a quest, critical bounties, which were part of the story, and limited bounties, which rotated weekly, sometimes daily, and offered an assortment of different rewards for completing certain quests or objectives. The best part about these limited bounties were if you completed them all, you would get a gold ticket that you could exchange for the gem of your choice. So even if you got really bad RNG, the game's still helping you out. You could also manage your investigations here, as well as complete deliveries for certain villagers. At the Elder Melder, you had the option to meld items, meld a limited number of decorations, and also roll for random decorations using the First Wyverian Ritual. I personally loved these upgrades. If you ran out of things like Mega Armor Skins or Mega Demon Drugs, boom, just craft some more. The farm was also really nice, and it was simplified as well. Here you could cultivate a number of different items and fertilize them to increase your yields. And don't you Poogie fans worry your little head or curly tail. He is back in this game and better than ever. If you really need a reason why, because you can pick him up and he'll find items for you. That is pretty cool. Your room was actually upgradable. Even though, unfortunately, you cannot sleep in the bed, you can only sit on it. There's just so much going on in the game, you just gotta give him some slack somewhere. In the town, you also have access to meals and food skills. This game overhauled the system and actually made things a lot better. It's a little confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, you can choose between attack up, defense up, elemental resistances up, and you can also choose the skills in which you would like as well, all of which just come from certain combinations of foods. They also added in Turf Wars, and Turf Wars is the first time in a Monster Hunter game that monsters are able to attack each other in a scripted fashion. They always do a specific amount of damage depending on which one wins, and they usually drop a shiny or a part of theirs as well. They also gave hunters the ability to start squads, and you can make a personal squad, and this gives you the ability to just launch right into your squad's room, and people don't have to join your room. They can just join the squad's room, and you can all be in the same squad, room, guild, hub together. They made prep much easier in this game by simplifying a few UI options. Now item sets and equipment sets are in their respective tabs and are not separate tabs, so it's much easier to access them. They also simplified Palicos. You can now change Palicos' tools. They can heal you, set up traps, and even buff the hunter. They can also befriend smaller animals and recruit them to fight alongside you. They gave the mounting system an overhaul. Players can damage monsters while another hunter is mounted. There's also a new minigame that ends with a finishing attack to sum up the mount. If you'd like to know more about mounting, I actually have a full video on it that I'll pin in this video. Another big change is that you can actually jump from part to part on the monster while mounted. Let's talk about the quest system in the game. Key quests are gone. They changed the way the quest system works, basically merging the village and hub quests together. There are no quote-unquote hub-only quests. The story is made up of quests called assigned quests. There are also optional quests, which don't affect the story, but unlock with story progression, and some of them are requests from villagers. Then there are investigations, which are a new type of quest. They are basically unlimited, but limited at the same time. You can find an unlimited number of investigation quests while gathering tracks and breaking monster parts during quests, but each investigation has a limited number of times that you can post it. Lastly, there are event quests just like in previous games, but these are not quests you can download and run anytime you like. They are truly event quests in the sense that they are only available during certain events or times. These are usually the most difficult or rewarding quests. After you have completed a quest, they also took out the timeout/countdown at the end of a quest, basically allowing you to still go AFK and claim all of the items that you might have missed in the old games. The old 4-player hub system is now gone and has been replaced with a 16-player hub, and there is a new SOS system which allows players from other hubs to still join in on your quest. You can also join people mid-quest, which is really nice and new to the series. You can also search the SOS quests based on a variety of filters, like what monster or a similar rank. As amazing as the SOS system was, it still has many bugs. Monster Hunter took a page out of the Pokemon book and gave hunters a capture net. This is because endemic life is a huge part of this game. They actually allow you to capture endemic life and put them in your room for show. You can now use the environment itself as an attack. In previous games, monsters could alter the shape of the environment when they went apeshit, but now you can actually alter the environment to do your bidding. You can drop rocks or stalactites on monsters and get it down and cause a lot of damage. There are also things like vines which trap monsters, and there are toads which can do things like paralyze monsters as well. They have updated the smithy, and now weapon trees are completely visible. You can also roll back upgrades to an extent. We now also get a wish list. It easily tracks what monster parts you need and updates live after quests. Armor has been completely simplified as well. In the past games, armor was split up into two categories: Blade Master and Gunner sets. Now it has been split up into Alpha and Beta sets, allowing either hunter style to wear either armor. Blade Masters get reduced physical damage, and Gunners take less elemental damage. You can preview the entire armor at once, finally. And with more of a robust, customizable character creation, the game gives you the option to hide your helmet to show off that pretty face. Armor skills have also been simplified. You no longer need to add points to activate an armor skill. Instead, each point raises the level of the skill by 1. Also, there are no more negative skills. They changed charms so they are now craftable and upgradable. Decorations now take on the full RNG role. We finally made it to the monsters of Monster Hunter World. Let's go over the brand new monsters for Monster Hunter World. We got Anjanath, Basilgeuse, Dodogama, Great Gyros, Great Jaggeris, Giratotis, Kuliyaku, Legiana, Leshen, Ancient Leshen, Odogaron, Palumu, Puki Puki, Radabon, Tsitsiyaku, Tobi Kadashi, Behemoth, Kolvtaroth, the flagship of the game, Nergigante, Valhazak, Xeno'jiiva, and Zora Magdaros. We only got a couple returning monsters, very much like they did with Monster Hunter Tri. Rathalos, Rathian, Azure Rathalos, Pink Rathian, Diablos, Black Diablos, Uragon, Kushala Deora, Teostra, the only monster Nergigante will run away from, Lunastra, Lavasioth, aka Lava Snake, Ponyboy Kieran, Baroth, and Deviljho. He was the first DLC. Speaking of DLC, I'm not going to get into all of the DLC because there is a lot, but this game was the first game to have title updates, in which they brought free content for anyone who owned the game and added in additional monsters, things like Kolvtaroth, which were like these giant raids, and other really fun features, like collaborations. Let's talk about the combat in this game. It got a lot of updates. The biggest update is the fact that we got a slinger, which is an entirely new weapon for the hunter. You can pick up ammo and use different types of ammo in the slinger to affect the environment and monsters differently. You can use ammo to drop things like spikes and boulders on monsters, but you can also use specific ammo types to flinch monsters. The slinger can also be used as a grapple hook. You can hook onto things called wedge beetles and pull yourself up to get to different areas quicker. Guns are now customizable. You can decrease deviation, customize them for quicker reload speed. There's a lot of different customizations. They also greatly improved the aiming system with guns. I think it's a lot more fun to play as them now. There are also new tools for hunters called mantles, and mantles are actually like a cloak that is on a cooldown once you use it, which grants you a special bonus, like fire or other elemental resistances. There are some mantles like the Ghillie Mantle that will hide you, and then there are other mantles that give you bonuses like extra monster drops like the Bandit Mantle, or even can cancel monsters' roars like the Rocksteady Mantle. For the first time, we are given a dedicated training area which shows you the moves you're using and how to perform combos. It even gives you a pole to attack, which tells you how much damage you're doing. Also, this is the first time that we've been given weapon move prompts. So in the top right of your screen, whether you're in the training area or not, you can see which move comes next after the move that you've currently used. Each weapon in this game got brand new movesets. They also added moves for each weapon when you're going down slopes. Many weapons also got new attacks when you jump off walls. There are so many new additions, I can't really even go into how many new ones there are. I can recommend checking out Eric's and Gaijin Hunter's videos on these because they go in depth on which moves are brand new. For an example, Greatsword never had the True Charge Slash, so now Greatsword has a combo in which the end of the combo is its strongest move, the True Charge Slash. Thank you to those of you who are still with me. I'll tell you one of my, one of the things I didn't really care for in this game. They took out an old friend of mine, the Veggie Elder, which was a little bit of a disappointment. I always liked that guy. He would give you the perfect items right when you need it, like a Psycho Serum if you lose the monster, or a hot drink if you needed it. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but he was always really cool. Whew! This game is absolutely massive. It didn't have quite as much content as previous games like Monster Hunter Generations. That was because they're starting from the ground up and trying to increase the fidelity and quality of life and lots of other things. But I can say I probably have missed some things just because this game is thick. I did leave a few things out, things like armor set bonuses, and we're going to be talking about those in the Iceborne video. Let me know in the comments section if I missed anything. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a damn good one. All right, take care of yourself, friends. Happy hunting.